Kadosh Baruch Hu Masechet Moed Katan Daf 27:8:1 says the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanam. We learned in the Braita. We are 2 lines down. Well, second line down, right? When do we come and we start switching over, right, the beds? So once the person is going outside of his house, these are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yoshua says, Mishisatem Hagolel. What does that mean? Once they're going to take away the kisui of the kever hamet. Masechet Moed Katan. There was a story that Rabbi Gamliel Hazaken passed away. Once he left the house, Amar lahem Rabbi Eliezer, says Rabbi Eliezer, kefu mitotechem. Yeah, kefu mitotechem. Kefu mitotechem. What does it mean? You have to turn over the bed. Yeah. So he comes and he says, there was a story that Rabbi Gamliel Hazaken passed away. Once they took him out of the door of the house in order to bury him, says Rabbi Eliezer to the Avelim, you have to come and you have to turn over the beds. Because now it starts the Avelut. And once the Golel was Nistam, which means that they put the Kisui on top of the Aron, right? They said, they already did it. Through Rabbi Eliezer. Tanu Rabbanan. We learned in a Braita Shabbat. What about on Erev Shabbat? Mina mincha ulmala, from the mincha and onwards. Amar Rabba Baravuna, says Rabba Baravuna, afal pichan, even so, en yoshev alea ad shetechshach. The person is not allowed to sit on the mitot zekufot until nighttime, which means even though on Erev Shabbat from the mincha ulmala they're going to turn over the beds, and now it comes back to normal because they're almost by Shabbat, but they're not allowed to sit on it until Shabbat time, until right? Shetechshach. Motzei Shabbat. Afal pi shelo leshev ela yom echad. Chozer v'kufeh. Now Motzei Shabbat, even though he only is going to get out on Sunday morning, he has to turn over the beds again. He's getting out Sunday morning. Doesn't matter. He has to turn over the beds on Motzei Shabbat. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Kufeh mitato. Right, a person that turns over his bed. Lo mitato. Not only his own bed bilbad ukufeh, ela kol hamitot shesh lo beto. All the mitot that he has in the house. Which one? He has to turn over the bed. That's what we're talking about. He's turning over the beds. Okay? So says the Gemara, right? Even if he has 10 beds in different places, he's going to come, he's going to turn all of them over. And even if you have 5 brothers, and one of them died, each one in their house has to come and turn over the beds. But if it's going to be especially just for example, that it's not for sleeping or lying down, it's like for utensils, and they do not have to come and turn it over. Okay? Dargash. Yeah, what is a dargash? It says over here, we're going to explain what is the dargash. You don't have to turn it over completely. But you put it on the tzido, on the side. Rashbag Omer says, Dargash matiret kalbitav. The dargash is going to come and it's going to permit, right? That's what it says over here. It's going to permit the lulaot, which is basically the, when it's tied to it, right? It's going to permit it, vuno fel me'elav, and then it's going to fall on its own. Okay, so that's what they're going to do. What is the dargash exactly? Amarula arsa degada mita shel mazal. What does that mean? They used to have a minhag that they used to put, right, in the house, a bed that nobody used to use it, but it was like a siman from Mazal Tov. Yeah, they wanted an extra bed. So that's what they wanted. Amale Rabba comes and he says, Tula, Ela Me'ata, we're going to now ask the following question. Gabe Melech, by the king, the Tanam, we learned in the Mishnah, when they're going to do Sudat Havra'ah for the king, Kol ha'am mesubim ala haaretz, everybody is sitting on the ground, and he's sitting on this dargash. Does it make sense that the dargash is something that nobody sits on it, and only now when he's in Avelut he's going to start sitting down on it? Doesn't make sense. How could you come and you tell me that the dargash is some type of like a bed that was made from Mazal Tov, and nobody actually used it? The king was sitting on it now. So what's he doing now? So Matkifla Ravashi Maikushya asked Ravashi, what's the question? It's just like eating and drinking. Because until now, right, the Avel was not eating and not drinking from other people. And now he's eating and drinking from other people, which means that you see from here, there's a concept that he's eating and drinking from other people. So says the Gemara, but this is the question really. The Tanya we learned in the Braita, Dargash eno tzarich lechudo. You don't have to come and turn over the Dargash. Ela zokfo, but rather you leave it on the side. Ve'i arsa degada. If you're going to tell me it's this bed for Mazal, why en tzarich lechudo? Hatanya we learned in the Braita, kufe means domito bivalu kufe ela kol mitot sheyesh lo betoch beto kufe. He has to turn over all the beds. So says the Gemara, my kasha. What's the question? That's like a mita, which is miyuchadet for kilim. So we said that you don't have to turn over, correct? You don't have to turn over a bed that's miyuchadet lekilim. The Tanya we learned to write mita, mitata, right? Mita miyuchadet lekilim, and tzechivota, you don't have to turn it over. Okay? Says the Gemara, we have the pictures there on the bottom. Elaikashia, but if there's a question, hakasha. Yes, you have it there. Elaikashia hakasha. This is the question. Rashba Gomer, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Dargash matir et karbitav vehu nofel me'elav. What did we just say? We just said that the dargash, you permit the strings, and then what happens is it falls out down on its own. Now if you're going to tell me arsa degada that it's a mitah from Mazal Tov, my karbiti mitle. So which lulaot does it have? This is a regular bed, right? It's just there for Mazal. It's not like it's attached to something and you release it and then it falls down. This is a regular bed. Just it was made for Mazal Tov. So Kiyata Ravi, when Ravin came, Amale, he went and he said, Hahum Rabbanam Rav Tahlifa Bar Ma'arava Mishmeh, right? Shemeh, right? There was one of the Chachamim, and Rav Tahlifa Bar Ma'arava is his name. Davashchiach Beshuka de Gildai, that he was found in the Shuk of Ratzanim. What is the Shuk of Ratzanim? A Shuk of they used to deal with the leathers. Okay, my dargash. What is a dargash? Arsa de tzala. He says it's a mita which is made out of ore, right? Which is basically it's going to be made out of leather. Okay, so he says, and then they come and they connect them. Okay, let me just check here. So this is the arsa de tzala. Arsa de tzala is machnis ritzuot min chorei atzma amita. Look, you have here the leather, and then here you have the wood, like like the poles on the side, which is the bed frame. But here you have the leather in the middle. This is the leather in the middle, right here. Okay. So that's arsa de tzala.
Like the kind of
Kiyata Ravi, when Ravin came, he said, he says, what is dargash? Arsa de tzala. So Itmanami was also stated. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah says, dargash serugo mitocho. What does that mean? Kshirato, the tying of it is within the miskeret. Mita seruga al gaban. You have a mita seruga al gabah. So again, you have the picture, right? That's the next picture over here. That means it's on the top. The first picture was the one on top. This is the top one. Oops, that's the top one. Right? That's Arsa de Tzala. Get glasses. Yeah, the second one, right? The second one is, he says over here, the second one is Suruga. Exactly. It's coming on the outside. Soda from the outside. Okay? So now it says in the Gemara, so says the Gemara now, right? Amar Rabbi Yaakov Barach Rabbi Shmuel Levi Alacha Kerashbag. The Alacha is like Kerashbag. The Avel just permits the lulaot, which are the rings of the dargash, in order that it falls to the ground. Amar Rabbi Yaakov Barach Amar Rabbi Asi. Says Rabbi Yaakov Barach name Rabbi Asi. Mita shenaklitei yotzin zokva vedayo. So a bed that you have the two motot, the two poles which are coming out. All you have to do is you put it on the side, and that's going to be enough. The last picture of the book, this one.
what about that?
All you have to do is you turn it on its side.
You don't need to
For how long? 7 days?
Yes. Okay. On Shabbat, you're able to bring it back up, and then again on Motzei Shabbat, you put it back down. Yes, it's a siman. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. No, it's a sign of Avelut. They're showing Avelut, just like they cover the mirrors, they do a whole bunch of things. It's a sign of Avelut, yes. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Yeshena gabe kiseh, o al gabe udyane. If a person is sitting down, right, that means if the Avel did not come and turn over the beds, but rather, right, he comes and he slept, whether it's on the chair or on this machtesh gdola, gdola mizu, al gabe karka, lo yetza lechovah. He was not yetza lechovah. Rabbi Yochanan says, Shelo kiyem kfiyat mitah, but he didn't do the mitzvah kfiyat mitah. It means there was a mitzvah to turn over the beds. And since he didn't turn over the bed, there was a problem. You're allowed to come into broom, and you're allowed to do sponja in the house of the Avel. Okay? You're also allowed to wash with the cups, the dishes in Bet Avel. And they're not allowed to bring mugmar. They're not allowed to bring mugmar. Mugmar was they used to take wine and they used to pour it on the floor, so you used to have a good aroma. Right nowadays, right, the Israelis are doing that in the hotels. Yeah, so what do? They come and they put like this smell, and it's a beautiful smell. It's a scent.
Wine is really
But no, in the olden days they used to use wine. Wine was what they used to use, right? Okay. So says the Gemara, any is it so? Be'atani bar kapara. We learned bar kapara. Right? They were not allowed to come and not allowed to do the mugman besamim bet avel. Baruch you're not allowed to make the beracha, but you're allowed to bring it. Says the Gemara, it's not a question. One of them is in the room, right, where the avel is by himself. So since they bring it for ta'anug, it's a sur for him to be there. But if it's in a place where also the menachamim are there, which means that they come and that's where they come and they console him. And no, so then there, since it's for them, it's permitted. Meaning for the avel, it's a ta'anug, so that's a sur. But if the avel is going to be in a place where that's where they're menachamim oto, so then it's for the menachamim. For the menachamim, it's going to be permitted. Nishna on Kavzayin Amud Aleph towards the bottom. So they're not allowed to bring a seudat havra'ah to the house of the avel. Remember, seudat havra'ah is the first meal after burial. Yes. Okay, so that they're not going to bring lo betavla, not in a tavla. Tavla is like there's a derech kavod. It's like a big plate or a big platter. Velo be'askutla, which is a kara gdola, big platter. Thank you. Velo be'kanon, and not in a big basket. Ela besalim. Askutla is kara gdola, big plate. Right? Velo be'kanon, and not a big basket. Ela besalim, but rather regular baskets. So nothing fancy, nothing big, nothing. Ve'en omrim birkat avelim b'moed, and they don't do it in birkat avelim and chol moed. Aval omdim meshuram nachmim, but they do the shura and they do nichum avelim. Upotrim et arabim, and they're going to tell everyone to go away. Basically, potrim otam, right? They don't also put it on chol moed inside of the city center, right, or in the middle of the street. Shelo largil et ha'esped, in order that people shouldn't come and start doing hesped. Ve'lo shel nashim leolam, and never the women mipnei hakavod, because of kavod, because basically sometimes it could be that all of a sudden there's dam nidut coming out, right, a nida blood, and all of a sudden you have the tachrichim, and it's a problem. So therefore, it's a bizayon. So because of that, they would never put the women there at all, right? They would make sure that there's no problem. Okay? We learned in the Braita. Says the Gemara, Barishona, היו מולכים בבית האבל עשירים בקלטות של כסף וזהב עניים, מסלי נצרים של ערבה כרופה. והיו עניים מתביישים. Do you know at the beginning, they used to take to the Bet Avel, the Ashirim, they used to come and they used to take with beautiful baskets of gold and silver. The Anim used to take it with miskanim, these how do you call these baskets made out of the palm branches, arava, chad pe'ami, of arava and all these things. So the Anim, they were mitbashim. So they went and they instituted because of the kavod of the Anim, they used to come, they used to make, everybody used to come from the regular baskets. We learned in a Braita. At the beginning in the Bet Avel, they used to give to the Avelim, the Ashirim used to give them bizchuchi levana, which are very expensive cups, right, which was made out of like white glass. Right? He says, and Aniyim with zchuchi tzevua, with colored, right, colored glass. So everybody used to use the same cups. At the beginning, they used to come and they used to reveal the faces of the Ashirim when they passed away, and they used to cover the faces of the Aniyim when they used to pass away. Why? The poor, since there used to be famines, their faces used to become all black. So if they passed away, they weren't going to show the face. It was a shoma. The face is all black. But right, no, we're not talking about lizahot. But they used to come and they used to do that. So then they came and they covered all the faces. Barishona at the beginning. Because of the Barishona at the beginning, the Dargash, the Aniyim, they used to take out the Ashirim to bury them in a dargash. And the aniyim, they used to take them out. 27b, beklicha, which is basically a bed made out like a ladder. Like mamash, like two pieces of wood. There's a frame, and then just pieces of wood like that. So everyone used to go out with the pticha. At the beginning, they used to put the mugmar underneath people that passed away when they were chole me'ayim, which means they had intestinal problems. The mugmar was the smell, was like the perfume type of thing we used to do. So they used to put it underneath because obviously it smells, it doesn't smell good. So the ones that were alive, chole me'ayim, were being mitbashim, but they used to say, that means the second that they put it underneath these people, everybody knows that what? That they're chole me'ayim, that these guys were sick. So everybody, they start putting it underneath everybody because of the kavod of the chole me'ayim achayim. At the beginning, they used to do tevilah of kelim on top of women that they were nidot metot, that they died when they were nidah. But now the nidot that they were alive were embarrassed. So they used to do it on top of all the women. Because the kavod of nidot. So again, this is just to show you the sensitivity, whether it was of what the Chachamim instituted each time, whether it's because of the nidot, whether it's because of the chole me'ayim, whether it's because of the aniyim, right? They came and they did it because of sensitivity.
Only the ones who were alive were in
the next one is the same thing, but they used to do it on top of the zavim, which was a person that passed away and he was a zav. So therefore, they used to come in any clothing that he used when he was alive. They used to come and do tevilah on him. So all the other ones were embarrassed. Again, it's because of the kavod of the zavim chayim. Do you know at the beginning, it used to be so hard, the taking him out to bury him, even more than his actual death. Why? Because he used to cost so much money, right? So, okay, nowadays it's the same thing. Until they used to come and they used to run away. Because it was so expensive burial that they used to just run away. You know what it was? It was too much. The burial was so much money. So until Ad Shabbat Krovav, right, what happened? Ad Shabbat Gamliel v'nag kalut rosh be'atzmo. That Rabbi Gamliel came and he did kalut rosh with himself. V'yatza b'klei pishtan, that he came out and he was wearing regular klei pishtan, mamash, linen clothing. The cheapest, the easiest thing. And then from then on, everybody became linen clothing. So once it became linen clothing, there was no fashion and I don't know what, yes, they made everything standard. So that way now, every person, doesn't matter how rich you are, a billionaire or a millionaire or a poor person, they're all coming out with the same shrouds. They're coming out with the same clothing. So therefore, it made it cheaper, obviously. Right? Amar Papa says, and now they use even big canvas, which is not even shaveh dinar, which means like mamash, they didn't even go like Rabbi Gamliel. They went even lower, which means the mamash, the shrouds are the cheapest thing that there is. Okay? Next. We just said in the Mishnah that you're not allowed to put the bed in the coffin, right? The aron in the rechov, in order not to start doing a sped. Remember, you're not allowed to do a sped on Chol Moed. Amar Papa says, En Moed bifnei Tamid Chacham. There's no Moed bifnei Tamid Chacham, right? Which means that the kvod of the Chol Moed is not going to be noeg, which means if a Tamid Chacham passes away in Chol Moed, they do a sped for him. The Chol Sheken and all the more, so Chanukah Purim, they will also do Hespedim. But that's only in front of him. But not in front of him. Lo. Says the Gemara, any is it so? The had Rav Kahana Safte, the Rav Zvi Minarda Bepunara. Rav Kahana, he made a sped for Rav Zvi Minarda Bepunara, which means that you're allowed to do it even though it wasn't in front of him. It wasn't in front of him. He was doing a sped on Chol Moed. Rav Papi says, Yom Shemua Hava. No, it was the day that he found out about it. So since it was the day that he found out that he passed away, so therefore it's considered like it's in front of him, and therefore he's allowed to do a sped even if it's not going to be in front of him. Amar Ula says, Hesped, what is a sped? Ala lev, right? A sped, right, is that it's kilu, you're hitting on your heart. Tichtiv al shadaim sofdim. On the shadaim, you're sofdim. You're coming and you're doing a sped on the shadaim, on the chest area, which is right here, which is on the heart. Tipuach, what is tipuach? Tipuach is bayad, right? When it says metapchim, it's bayad. Okay, kilus in the Lashon of Tanaim is hakab regel. It's on the Easter hit with their ground on the floor. So Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Ham kales lekales besandal ela beminal mipnei sakana. So when they used to do this, they wouldn't do it with a sandal. Only they used to do it with minalaim, with the shoes, not with sandalim, because of the sakana. Okay, Am Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, אבל כיוון שנענה ראשו, שוב הם מנחמים רשעים לשבת אצלו. Once he comes and he shows that he was already consoled, the people are not allowed to come and they're not allowed to sit by him. Okay, and also, right, so that's a very important thing. By the way, you should know, there's a very important concept. I learned this right the hard way by somebody that he told me. He went and he said that sometimes people, you have to know who the person is. Sometimes the Avelim don't want you there. They don't want you there. They want peace. They want, right? So there was a woman that her husband passed away very, very young. We're talking about he was 32 at the time that he passed away, leaving her an almanah and with 3 children. I still remember until today what happened is that when he passed away, right, she was sitting Shiva, right? A lot of times people would come and sometimes she just ran to her room. She wouldn't come out, right? She locked herself in her room. Why? She didn't want. And people think, wow, but they're doing a mitzvah. Yeah, but how many times a day are you going? And what are you doing all day there? You understand? Sometimes you have to know who the people are, which means that sometimes you have to tact. You have to know. No. You go. That's it. Exactly. 100%. The exact same thing. Okay. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan, Lakol omrim lahem shevu, chutz me'avel v'chole. This is very important halacha. Right? This is a Gemara that we do until today. Right? Remember that today, when we finish Mincha and Arvit or Shachrit, what happens? The Avel has to sit down, and we say Tziduk Adin. We never tell the Avel, sit down. Why not? We're reading in the Gemara. The Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Lakol omrim lahem shevu. To everybody, you could tell people, sit down. Not to an Avel or not to a Chole. Right? Not to an Avel or not to an Avel. You hint to them. You have to, you hint to them that, you understand? So he says, why exactly? So he says over here, he says, they're not, they're asurim lasot ken, but still you're not allowed to tell them to sit down. Right? It says over here, because it's mashma over here that kilu shavu means stay in your avelut. We're talking about that you're not allowed, that when they do tziduk adin to an avel, they're not allowed to tell them sit down, because the avel has to be sitting down when they do tziduk adin, and everybody's standing up. But you're not allowed to tell them sit down, because if you tell them shavu, it's mashma that you want him to stay in his avelut. So to everybody else, you can tell them sit down, but to them you have to hint to them. Kilu hem tzrichim lashevet. אתה לא יכול להגיד להם shavu.
תשב.
Yeah, you pick him up. Whatever. Yeah. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav. Avel Yom Rishon asur le'echol lechem mishelo. The first day of Avelut, he's not allowed to eat his own bread. That's why Seudat Avraham comes from other people. Since the Hashem told Yecheskel, "Velechem anashim lo tochel," you're not allowed to write. He says, "Lechem anashim acherim lo tochel," which means the other people's bread you're not allowed to eat. Mashma b'derech klal, he has to eat from other people. So that's why the Seudat Avraham always has to be done by other people. Rabba and Rav Yosef mechalot Seudat ladade. So it says Rabba and Rav Yosef, they were switching seudot between them, which means that when one of them was avelim, so the other one used to bring him a seudah. The Amar Rav Yehuda Rav says of you the name of Rav. Met ba'ir kol bnei ha'ir asurim la'aseh melacha. Do you know that when the person passed away in a city, the entire city is not allowed to do melacha until after the levaya? Rav Hamnuna ikla leDarmuta. So Rav Hamnuna, he once visited Darmuta. So you heard that they were blowing the shofar to tell everyone that somebody passed away. So he saw people were working. He went and said, these guys are in excommunication. He put them in cherem, right? Lo shichva ika b'mata. They said what? He says what? Somebody didn't pass away. Amnule. They said no. Chavurata ika b'mata. There are chaburot in the city, and each one is a chraim on the metim. Okay, and therefore it's not shayach to their chabura, which means there were certain groups, and they were in charge of that group. So he says amalu. So he says okay. So then he permitted it, meaning that if it was going to be that it was one group, so therefore nobody's allowed to come and allowed to do the work. But once it was different groups in the thing, so now it's going to be permitted for them to do the work because it wasn't part of their group, so they're allowed to come and do their work. The Amar of Yehuda Amar Rav says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav. Kol hamitkashel metu yoter midai al met acher ubocher. Very important. Yeah, écoute-moi. Yeah, very important. He says over here, what happens is that anybody that's going to cry too much for a met, he's crying for another met. Another one that's going to come. Yeah, that's what it says over here. Adhidu livkot al od echad mikrovav sheyamut.
עד מה?
עתיד הוא לבכות על עוד אחד מקרוביו שימות.
Isn't there a rule that if there's a newborn male, then there won't be another
Yeah,
one?
that's something else. No, it's not that there's not going to be someone if there's a newborn male, so then what happens is it's a good siman for the entire family. But that's a newborn male that comes throughout the entire year. If a baby boy is born throughout the entire year, it's a siman tov l'mishpacha. It's kilo they were cured.
When my grandfather,
there was a woman that she was living in the vicinity, in the neighborhood of Rav Huna. She had 7 children, and one of them died. She was crying, and then she was crying too much. Rav Huna comes and he told her, Lo tavdiachi, don't do that. Right? Don't cry too much because she didn't pay attention. He sent her, if you're going to listen to me, it's good. If not, you should already prepare the shrouds for the other one. V'mit, and the other one died. Umitu kulu, at the end, all of them died. All her 7 children died. Lesof, Amarla, no, too much. Don't go to the extremes, right? It says Amarla. He says Timush zavdach lenafshech umita. Prepare also for yourself, and she died also. Yeah, so all of them. Which means don't come and start crying for a deceased person and not moving your heads. So you could say, you tell me die. Don't cry too much from it. And don't come and just like the Rechavelim because too much. 3 days for crying. 7 days for eulogy. 30 days for making the clothing nice. Tisporet, and also for haircuts. Says, what, you are more Rahmanim more than me? Right? You're going to be more of Rahman than him? Meaning he put a time, that's it. More than that, not supposed to. Right? When you're going to cry, a person will cry a lot for somebody that goes without any children. Right? Do you know that Yoshua ben Levi, he would never go to a Bet Avel unless somebody went and he didn't have children. Because on a met like this, he used to go, right? He's not going to come back because he's not going to see. He didn't have children. He didn't have a descendants. He didn't have any continuation. So that's what he used to go. Rav Huna Amar, he says, this is the remez, it's somebody that did an avera and he repeated it. Okay, that's what it says over here. According to Rav Huna, lo yashuv od means it's a remez, lo yashuv b'tshuva, lo yachzor b'tshuva al chatav. So he says, that means this is basically a hint, somebody that does an avera and he does it again, he won't do tshuva from it. Rav Huna again, the same Rav Huna, yeah, right? So he says, Rav Huna letame, Rav Huna goes according to his reasoning. Ta'ama Rav Huna says Rav Huna, kevan shavar adam avera v'shana ba, putra lo. Once a person does avera and he does it again, it becomes a heter. For example, right, at the beginning, everybody knows, no. At the beginning, everybody knows, right, in the middle of a shiur, you're not going to come and start taking the phone and start playing around, in a sense. Yeah. But you did it once, you did it twice, you sent him something. Yeah, and then what happens is, right, he comes and he says, so Rav Huna comes and he says that once a person does an avera and he does it again, it becomes a heter for him. You're going to start speaking, hey, mutar, what's up? Everything's mutar. No. Do you really think it's mutar? It became like a heter. What does it mean it became like a heter? It became that now it became permitted for him to do whatever he wants. Amar Rabbi Levi, says Rabbi Levi, Shavel Shosha Yamim Anishonim, Avel for the first 3 days, Yiret Atzmo Kilu Cherem Munach Alo Ben Shtei Yerechotav. He has to look at himself as if to say that there's a cherem, a sword between his thighs. Shlosha Shiva from the 3rd day until the 7th day. It's like opposite the wall to him, opposite the corner of the wall. It's like a shuk. That's why, by the way, an avel has din on him. That's why he's not supposed to go by himself. He's not supposed to travel by himself. You understand? He always has to be with somebody, right? They don't do tachanunim. They don't do certain things of anything to do with mitah. They have to be very, very careful. Avelut is mamash. So therefore, that's what he has. So says the Gemara, right? We're on the 2 dots. We never put the women on the floor, right? Why? Because of the kavod. Because just in case if they were in nidah, and all of a sudden everything's going to come out and everyone sees it. So Amni Narda said Narda, Lo Shanu, what are we dealing with? Ela Chaya, only a woman that she dies during the time when she gave birth. Aval Shar Nashim, but other women, Menichin, we put them down, and we're going to speak about this tomorrow. Bezrat Hashem.